This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 624 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Nalox and Nalox Advanced. Support your horse's digestive tract from beginning to end. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is about the weird things horses eat. It's an excerpt from the Horses in the Morning Show, episode number 8, featuring Christy West and Dr. Jones and the whole gang from the Horses in the Morning Show. But before we get to our tip, let's hear from today's sponsor.
Well, if you're a regular listener to the show, you know we talk a lot about Kentucky Performance Products, and that's because they are a name you can trust to give you the most value for your supplement money. Kentucky Performance Products offers supplements designed to target specific problems and are made with high-quality ingredients included at effective levels. The company's supplements are intended to complement, not compete, with your dressage horse's current feeding program, guarding against over-supplementation, and each product is backed by sound research and the money-back satisfaction guarantee. And today we'd like to talk to you about Nalox, the original equine antacid. It's recommended by veterinarians and leading horsemen as a way of maintaining a healthy stomach, which reduces the risk of ulcers. Nalox can be given daily to horses exposed to stressful conditions or as needed when shipping, competing, or during stall confinement. You know, you can learn about Nalox and all the products at Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Now, enjoy today's tip.
Joining us is Dr. Erin Denny Jones, who is the owner of Florida Equine Veterinary Services in Claremont, and she's also a former chairman of the Owner Education Committee of the AAEP, which is the American Association of Equine Practitioners, the Association of Equine Veterinarians in this country. Erin, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Oh, good.
Good morning, Erin.
Good to have you here. Our topic today for the Horse Health segment is the crazy things horses eat, and I'm sure we all have some wonderful stories about that. But first, I'd like to let everyone get to know Erin a little bit. Erin, can you tell us a little bit about why you became a vet and what your practice is like?
I'll start with my practice because I don't like talking about myself very much. My practice is a 100% equine practice. It's mostly ambulatory, but we do have a clinic facility that does some sports medicine and reproductive work out of the facility. And I've been owner of it for 15 years. I've been a practicing veterinarian for 18 years. I'm a University of Missouri graduate. Go Tigers. And I've just always had a love for animals, just like any other kid. And the horses really brought my attention more than the dogs and cats did over the years. And I haven't looked back since I was 15. So that's what I knew I was going to do when I was 15, and just kept going.
That's perfect. It's always good to know what you want to do early and to be doing exactly what you want to do. How does it go if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life?
Yes. Very true. Very true.
Okay. So let's move on to our topic today, the crazy things horses eat. We did a poll on thehorse.com a little while back to just see what our readers could think of as far as the craziest things their horses had ever eaten and drunk, and we had a huge number of responses. We had everything from meat to alcoholic drinks, and I'm not sure if that says more about the horses or the owners. We've got fruits, vegetables. We've got in some strange things. My current favorite is the wedding ring. I don't know if anybody ever got that one back. That's a little bit scary. But I was hoping we could talk a little bit today about some of those things and, if any of these things are safe for horses to eat, what you should do if your horse is eating one of these things that's maybe not so good. So let's start with the meat. So we had several owners saying that horses ate anything from brats on buns with mustard to beef stew to chicken McNuggets, crawfish, fried chicken, stealing burgers off the grill, which is a whole other issue we won't get into, anchovies on toast. What are your thoughts from a veterinary standpoint on horses eating meat?
Well, the first thing right off the bat is they're not going to get any nutritional value out of it. So horses are curious animals, and so they'll try about anything. And, that's when they get into trouble is because they're so curious. And so they'll try any kind of somewhat good smelling, good tasting item you put in front of them, but whether they get any value out of it remains, to their digestive system. Their system's set up for, just like a rabbit, just for like vegetative products going through, grasses, any other kind of greens, because they will ferment them, and then the fermentation process is what gives them the energies. So with the meats, that's a high protein. It's going to go in and go out. It's really not going to have much effect for them.
It's not bad for them.
No, not unless you probably got mad cow disease going on, or they've eaten large quantities of it. But usually, like I said, they're curious animals. 1 or 2 bites, not going to make a big deal to the horse.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
What about any issues with things like some people said their horse had stolen fried chicken out of a bucket? I mean, what about bones?
Bones I'd be concerned about, yes. Definitely be concerned about any kind of sharp items that went in, and bones would be included in that. They probably, I hate to say it, they probably swallowed it whole. And then you have these concerns of choke when they swallow things like that whole, because there is some narrowing of the esophagus when it carries itself over the heart, and they can block it up in that area and start to choke.
Now, can I ask you a question here, Christy? Do you, at that point, if you know your horse has eaten, a couple fried chicken legs, if you know your horse has eaten that, is that a time to call the vet, or is it, what then?
I'm assuming that's a question for me.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, that's all right, because you had said Christy. I'm with her there. Yeah, it's always good to just at least give a heads up to your veterinarian to let them know what happened, and the vet may come out right away and go ahead and tube, is what we call it, tube the horse, and pass a stomach tube down into the stomach and pass some mineral oil to help move that product along. We do that all the time when they get into the feed bins, grain overload, eat products they're not supposed to. There was one that was on your list, Christy. It was 20 pounds of cat food. I think I would have wanted to go out and see that horse and tube it with some mineral oil to help move that along, because that might have some residual problems of toxicities to the horse. So, and maybe they did. Maybe that person did have their vet out right away to take care of that. I've seen horses hog feed, chicken feed, those kind of things, and there can be some products. Some of those products are made with things in them that will cause problems to the horse's digestive system or cause toxicities, which can result in laminitis and colic.
Yeah, now, actually, a couple of those things you mentioned, I have had here. I've lived on my farm for 6 months, Doctor, and 2 of those things have happened to me. The first, right out of the block, my horse decided that he could open the tack shed, go through the tack shed, and then go to the back where I keep the feed, and he proceeded to eat 30 pounds of equine seniors. So that was a $400 to $500 morning that I didn't really want to have.
And you brought up a very good point. Is they're very nimble with their mouth and their lips. They can turn doorknobs, and they can flick handles. So what I always tell people is my system is a two lock system, and it's not 2 locks on one door. It's 2 barriers. So you put your feed into a barrier of some sort, something like with a padlock, but doesn't actually have to be a locked padlock, something that they can't flip the lid open, and then you have a lock on your door. So you have 2 barriers before they can actually get to that product that you don't want them to get into. And that includes chemicals for your fertilizing and your weed spreading in your yards and things like that.
The other thing my horse did, well, we have a pony, and we also have a chicken coop. We only have 4 chickens, but my pony actually flipped open the chicken coop, got down on his knees, stuck his head in the chicken coop, and ate all of the chicken scratch that was in there, which was the most amazing feat of gymnastics ever done by a pony.
Yes. They are amazing, aren't they? They will do that. You're not the first story I've heard on that, getting down to their knees, getting underneath something. It's amazing.
Did he crow the next morning? That's my question.
Did he? Yeah, no, he did not. But I did have to watch him for colic because it's a pony, and he ate at least 5 to 10 pounds. And I'm panicked about stuff like that. So he did not crow. He did not lay an egg, unfortunately. But we did have to move the coop and move the feed, and I've just cleared out everything that is within possible reach. We even moved the chicken coop out of the field.
Absolutely. I mean, that was probably the best prevention. Our best medicine is the prevention that you just did for that. And again, mine with the 2 barriers is the prevention. And I have to explain that to my clients because I'll say 2-lock system. Well, what it really is it's a 2-barrier system, not 2 locks on the door, because people, they forget to do the locks. It just happened. It's human nature.
Or your horse takes off the entire lock, which is what the pony did in the chicken coop, by actually just removing the entire thing with his mouth, cutting his mouth in the process, and then eating all the chicken feed. So there is no limit to what they will do to get into whatever they want to get into.
Absolutely.
They are creative. Well, in the somewhat in the theme of horses ending up on their knees, the next thing I had on my list to talk about was alcohol. If we had some of our readers have fed their horses, or their horses have gotten into anything from Captain Morgan and Coke to shots of Hot Damn to a whole pitcher of beer. Erin, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's never been a study that has rated or had a horse blow into a breathalyzer to see what is their level. So I can't tell you what would be a toxic level for these horses, but it's usually just more done at a party, post-show celebration, end of the day trail ride, and you're going to have a beer at the end of the day kind of thing. So usually they're not too threatening to the horse. And a lot of the stunt riders will do that as, not necessarily as a beer when they're doing it in the show arenas and stuff, but they might have a can that says beer on the side of it, and their horse does have an affinity for it. But as far as being harmful to the horse, there's never been a case where a horse has gotten so toxic from those that they've had problems with the horse. They just, again, have an affinity for things that have a sweet taste to it, and then they're also very curious.
Okay.
In the 60 Minutes episode, Zenyatta actually was caught drinking a Guinness every day. So that's not gonna hurt Zenyatta and her chances of racing by drinking a Guinness every day.
No, it actually might help her. The old tale is if you give dark beer, like a Guinness, to a horse, it will help them sweat better. We've tried that here in Florida for those that come down here and they shut down, they're sweating, and we've given them dark beers, and some it works on and some it doesn't. So that's probably one of the theories, is they're trying to keep her to sweat well by giving her the dark Guinness. So yes, we have been giving beers. I know of horses that have gotten pitchers of beers to help them with their sweating, and they have no side effects to it. Of course, some of them have sweated and some have not.
Well, we're speaking to Christy from The Horse, and we're speaking to Dr. Jones, who is from Florida Equine Veterinary Services. And we're talking about what the crazy things that your horse has eaten. And if you want to chime in on that, give us a call at 347-637-3238. Tell us what's the craziest thing your horse has ever eaten. But go ahead, Christy. I just wanted to invite people to give us a call.
No, hey, people have wonderful stories. I'd love to hear some of them. But moving on from the alcohol, we've also had several people say that their horses had eaten wildlife. Dead birds that they'd found in the pasture, on occasion a live bird or mouse. I'm not quite sure how they got a hold of the live bird, but somehow that happened to happen. Goldfish out of a fish tank, caterpillars, which of course makes me think of Maryland Loss syndrome in Kentucky a few years ago. Tell us, Erin, have you heard of any of those?
Yes, I have. It's been, more chance than anything else, like the goldfish in a bowl if they were drinking and it accidentally got sucked up. It was a fish, basically. It wasn't the goldfish idea, but that's one of the stories I have. And then wildlife out in the field is, they caught them and they had eaten something that was out in the field, out in the pasture dead. It wasn't like they went straight to it. It just happened to be in their grazing path. So it's more chance. And a lot of times they're doing it now when you and I don't know about it, and they seem to be perfectly fine. But again, if they have excess amounts of certain dead things, there are some bacteria that lie in those dead animals that could disrupt their gastrointestinal tract. And again, calling the vet if you do catch it, say, hey, this happened. The vet may want to come out, just do an exam, make sure everything's fine, or just have you watch the horse depending on what it is. The caterpillars, that was the most devastating for Kentucky. And still can be. People are being very cautious about the tent caterpillars and them eating them and causing the male reproductive loss syndrome. So it's not necessarily all gastrointestinal. It's the toxins that are released through the gastrointestinal system, through the blood, that can affect other parts of the body. Again, laminitis, foundering in a horse, there's just those other things that can trigger bad sequelas. So, again, any of those weird things that you've seen them eat, it's still best to run them by your vet. Some may be really concerning and some may be just watch and see.
Gotcha. And, of course, on occasion, a dead mouse or something can get baled into the hay as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's always parts in those baled hays. People don't realize that it's out in the field and they bale it up and whatever's in the field comes. That includes weeds. We have a talk every year on toxic weeds, and people are saying, oh, I fertilize my pasture and I do weed master on my pasture. Well, they don't realize some of the toxic weeds come through their hay, and they look differently when they're dried out.
We get scorpions in the hay here. It's horrible.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the blister beetle that everybody knows about in alfalfa, so you have to watch for those. But there are some things that can occur in hay. So when you swap out and have new batches of hay, it's always good to let the vet know if you have a colic incident that, you have a new batch of hay. Maybe it's something in that new batch of hay.
Good to know. All right, we also have a number of people who've had their horses eat various fruits, vegetables, anything from zucchinis to melons to onions to cherries and jalapeno peppers, or any particular fruits and vegetable things that people should watch out for and make sure to keep their horses away from.
Well, one that's noted in most of the toxicology books is the avocado, but it has to be a large amounts of avocado. And, of course, here in Florida, they'll eat the oranges and grapefruits off the ground because we have citrus groves that have been refurbished into pastures that some of the old fruit that falls down on the ground, they'll eat. And the problem with that is they will cause choke because they will block the esophagus, and they aren't able to swallow anymore. So
do they just not chew up the citrus? Is that where it causes a problem?
Yeah, they'll swallow whole, like the small tangerines and things like that. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Very surprised. It also happens in cattle too. It's very concerning. Again, it's not just your colic that you'd worry about. It's a choke incident and something to that effect. So.
All right, I have a totally unnatural eating incident that I have a question about. We had a pony as a kid that I don't remember how it happened, but he ate a pair of gloves, little kids winter gloves. And the pony was fine. It took, we never saw the gloves again, so we're assuming they came out in some way, shape, or form. But would it make a difference if the gloves were cotton versus polyester?
No, it won't make a difference there, but a glove would concern me. And this will go on to, and it was something Christy and I had spoken about earlier, is metal objects, but it can't even be baling twine, because they'll eat baling twine. So they've eaten rubber tires that people have turned inside out and made feeders out of up north, that, are great little solid feeders out in the field. They've eaten those rubber tires, and those things will cause colic. They create what we call a nidus, or a center that a bunch of more stuff can accumulate, stuff meaning dirt from the pasture, down
like
here in Florida, sand. Yes, a pearl, same idea, and then we get what we call an enterolith, or a rock in the intestinal tract. Those are the most frustrating for veterinarians to diagnose because they'll colic, and then they get better. They colic, and they get better, and it's because the rock rolls into a spot and makes them colic, and it rolls out, and it rolls in, and it rolls out.
Wow.
And those are when we see consistent colic in a horse over time. We start to think about that and find out if they eat anything unusual. Well, half the time they don't know. It's out in the pasture.
You don't even know they ate it, yeah.
Right, but we've seen hay nets and colic surgery. We've seen, like I said, the rubber tires and colic surgery, all sorts of unique things. And then those enteroliths, the rocks, those are the most fascinating because you can x-ray them and you can see the center if there's a metal object. A lot of times it's not. It's just a makeup of the pasture content that they have as a high chemical content, and it starts creating the small rock, and then the rock starts gathering more and more and more stuff over time. It doesn't necessarily have to start off with a metal object or any object. But a lot of times you'll see like a washer, a nail, roofing nail we've seen sometimes in the center of these, all sorts of interesting items.
What's
a wedding ring might be in the middle of an enterolith of a horse if they see it come back out.
What's the weirdest thing that you've seen? You're in Florida, so I imagine that you've seen some strange things. What is the weirdest thing that you've been called out to for a horse eating?
Oh, boy. I'd have to say the hay net.
Yeah.
The hay net was probably the most unique, yeah. And, it was retrieved at colic surgery. and that was the smartest way to go for the horse. We didn't want to wait until it became an absolute emergency. But, yeah, the hay net. The hay net was it.
You know what? Us horse husbands hate hay nets with a passion anyway, so I say outlaw hay net. That's my...
Well, the nice hay nets are the ones that have the hole in the middle and they don't have the multiple openings all the way around, the actual net one. So the hay bags I like much better because they can't...
We're going to vote her as... All horse husbands of America officially like Dr. Jones right now.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't have hay nets in my barn.
Good. Well,
so, Dr.
Christy,
Jones, do you ride?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
You said you have horses. What do you do?
So, yeah, well, at the moment now I don't. I am in the process of raising a 2-year-old child. So my last horse left me right prior to the 2-year-old being born. So now I'm in the works of trying to get back on the horse again. But mostly I grew up with Western pleasure and barrel racing, and now my interest is in eventing and dressage.
That's my girl.
Running the whole.
I think I got another fan out there.
Was there any others on your list, Christy?
I have a couple others, but I know we're also running short on time. Probably the last thing I wanted to address is human snack foods, because we had a whole huge range of those, as you can guess. But one of the first things that a lot of people would ask about is whether the sugar in those snack foods for a horse that has Cushing's or metabolic syndrome or anything like that might be a concern.
Yeah, let's do that one, and then we'll wrap.
Okay.
Yeah, those would be concerned, but they'd have to, again, take large amounts, large quantities. Most of the time the people are not feeding like a full bag of Doritos or a 6-pack or 12-pack of Pepsi. They're probably just doing a can or a little bit taste while they're eating, and those things aren't going to create too much harm.
So just like in a human... Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry. Just like in a human, one tasty cake is fine, but a box full of tasty cakes, not so much.
Yeah, probably don't put the box of donuts out in front of their stall if you know they're going to be snatching it up, because you'll get less.
And that's what I was going to tell you is at a horse show we left a whole table full of sandwich things. My horse ate an entire jar of pickles, so I guess that's okay as long as he doesn't get any more.
Or he doesn't get the jar itself. Yeah. How did he get him out of the jar?
He knocked it over and ate every pickle and the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought a horse would eat a pickle, but he did. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, the Horse Health Report, we've had Christy West from thehorse.com and Dr. Erin Denny Jones, owner of Florida Equine Veterinary Service, and we'd love to have you back on, Dr. Jones, anytime. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Well, there you go. What a fun conversation. To listen to more tips from thehorse.com, go to horsetipdaily.com and go to the experts drop-down menu on the left. If you just love listening to Glenn and Jamie put in their 2 cents about horse health topics, you can tune into them at the Horses in the Morning show, horsesinthemorning.com. And don't forget to support our sponsors here on Horse Tip Daily, because they're the ones that make these podcasts possible. Today's sponsor has been Kentucky Performance Products. Ask for Kentucky Performance Products Nalox and Nalox Advanced at your local feed and supply store, or you can visit them online at kppusa.com. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover on the show. You can subscribe to all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. You can also listen to the shows right on Facebook. The player's right there every day. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.